Afternoon, I'm Dale Campbell from Still Moving Media, and today we are going to do a live broadcast to take you through why we're starting to become more active on YouTube as a platform. For those that don't know, we're a company which produces still and moving imagery for various clients around the world. I'm talking today about the moving image side, but my business partner Spencer is also going to be working on some of the still imagery, which we'll touch on in a later video. The idea for us is that YouTube as a platform never really appealed, because although a lot of our videos ended up on YouTube, we didn't actually produce any content which was relevant because it was all work that we were producing for our clients. Now, at the moment, we're in the process of reevaluating this, and a lot of the live videos that we've been putting out on Instagram and Facebook could actually be created in a slightly more polished fashion with a bit of time spent looking at things in the studio like this, rather than just looking at lighting breakdowns and stuff when we're on location, actually on location. And possibly the two will still coexist, but the idea is that we're going to do things in a slightly more structured fashion and look at things in a bit more detail, delve into some of the color grading and that kind of stuff on this YouTube channel. So now we're actually using the platform for its intended purpose, rather than just putting out endless show reels which really aren't going to interest anyone. To that end, today we're going to have a quick look at how we've actually got set up for this live broadcast, and also the videos which we're going to be producing in this same setup. This isn't how we normally have our edit station set up, unfortunately, in a huge room with cool funky lighting. It's all a fiction just to make it look a little bit more interesting and to, well, have a bit of a play. We enjoy messing around with light, and we enjoy setting up interviews, set dressing, that kind of stuff. So this is just a way that we can play with a couple of ideas at the same time as producing some content. Because of that, I will be wearing the same outfit for the first few videos. Don't hold it against me, we're just going to do them in bulk, mostly because we're just really busy, and whenever we can set up like this for a day, we'll just push through as much content as we possibly can. In a second, I'm going to grab the GH5 behind me, which is set up with a wireless receiver, so that I can actually walk around and have a look at stuff. But before I do that, I'm just going to talk through what's happening on the lighting side. So key light is coming from an ARRI 750 Redhead. That is actually pushing through a diffusion frame, big Elastilite 2 meter by 2 meter diffusion with the heavier grade, I think it's 1.75 stop diffuser on that. There's an awful lot of flagging going on around that, so although it's a very, very simple light, a very nice light as well, tungsten lighting sources are great, don't really have to worry too much, they just look fantastic. That's pushing through the diffusion, and we've got loads of flags to keep that under control. When you're using a big open face light like that and you're pushing it through diffusion, it just flies everywhere. So a lot of the work that you actually do with those lights is in controlling it, unless you're putting it through, say, a softbox like a Chimera or something. So we've got a little cutter on that on the side and on the bottom, and then a couple of floppy flags to just keep it off the wall behind me. Now then, on the walls behind, there aren't many real lights going on those. They're all just little strip lights that we have to make the studio look a little bit interesting, kind of mood lighting for fashion shoots and things, so we don't have to have the main lights on. And that's all just there, giving a little bit of interest. We put various lights around behind things just to give a bit of color contrast and make things a bit more interesting. Over to the left, there's actually a Kino Flow pushing up into the ceiling, giving a bit of a room tone and making sure that everything just doesn't fall off completely to black. Now the big takeaway from that is that we've got a tungsten light just here, lots of blue lighting, which, I don't know, that's kind of theatrical, it's not really relevant what the color temperature of that is. And then the Kino Flow is at 5600, that's a daylight balanced Kino Flow over there. So we're actually getting quite a lot of color contrast between me and the background in that scenario. Also got a little LED strip just here, which is kind of purple-ish, and that's just playing off all of the various bits of stuff that we got on the desk, at the top of the desk, on the lenses, on the side of the G-Raid, and so on. On this side of me, we've just got loads of flags, so loads of flags and negative fill. And then just on this side, there's a big white paper reel. It's just set up. We weren't going to take it down because there's a white wall behind it anyway. And that's probably just giving a little bit of kickback, maybe filling in a little bit behind me also. So what I'm going to do now is grab hold of the GH5, and we've got Ben next door who is working the ATEM for me, so he's probably going to switch over to this camera. Now we'll see a drastic change in quality between the two of these. We're on a 10mm with a Metabones on this one, so I can hold it in my hand and still get everything in shot. And then we're on the 35mm Schneider on the Ursa over there, and that's going to look very different because I actually made up a LUT specifically for this setup. So I recorded a little bit, took it into DaVinci, had a bit of a play around and made a LUT for the setting. The GH5 does not have any of that, so things are going to look drastically different. First thing I'm going to do, walk over to here. I'll probably overexpose a little bit, but just to show you a little bit of what's going on. Got this negative fill bottomer just here, and that is just stopping all the light from coming in under my chin when I'm sitting down. Otherwise that setup would kind of fill out all of this area down here as well, and it would look a little bit unnatural. Got a flag just on the side here. I just rested that there because I was in a hurry, but that's just cutting a little bit off the side also. And then if I step back here, you'll see this little LED strip. These things are super cheap as well. They're like, I don't know, 12 to 25 pounds on Amazon, depending on the size that you get. Floppy flags, 2 of those, and that is just to keep all of this light that we've made with our huge soft source there off everything that's going on behind me. So if we didn't have those floppies in place, or if you didn't put some kind of flagging in place there, you just have a wash of light over everything, and you'd lose all your contrast between the foreground and the background. Now coming back a little bit further, you're going to see another LED strip just there. That one's kind of going blue. And then on the back of our Broncolor Para 177 here, we've got another LED strip just hooked up there. And again, those are all playing off the walls, giving everything a slight blue hue. And at the top, we've got our mood lighting, which is just always in place in the studio. And then on top of that, we've got the taxi signs as practicals in the background. They're just always up there. And that kind of gives us our set dressed area. Got a Ronin just there for a bit of shape. Over here, we have our Kino Flow. And the Kino Flow is kind of almost down to one tube, if you like, on that. So I've just taken it and folded over one of the leaves. It's bouncing up into the ceiling. So we're getting a minimal amount of light from that. And in fact, if I just kick that off, you'll be able to see what it's doing there. And if Ben cuts to the wide shot, and back to me, that's just giving us that room tone that I talked about. And all of that is also playing in the silver of the flex just here, coming off a little bit of the white paper just there as well. And then there's tons of negative fill happening over here. So negative fill in that scenario is this flag, which I placed as close to me as possible just here, just out of frame. And then we've got all of this black cloth to take everything down. Now for our setups, we're going to be using this scenario, but I just wanted to have a bit of a walk through to the studio and I'm going to show you the live stream setup. And then we've got ATEM just here. Going to get a little bit of inception going on. Room just here, we just threw up a Broncolor with a modelling light just for a bit of convenience and also to keep everything roughly tungsten. At the moment, if we just walked in here, we'd have just a blue daylight and I'd probably look all washed out. So we've got tungsten bouncing up into the ceiling and that's going to help us out a little bit. Running through, just going to mute the screen just here so we don't go crazy. Running through the Blackmagic ATEM, that's going to be our mixing between the two different camera setups we got. And then just going through the Teradek, and that's Teradek Video Pro just there, going straight out to YouTube. And then we're monitoring over here just in the live YouTube room. Now Ben's going to be next door now. He's just walked over to the main camera, so I'm just going to walk back through. And if Ben, could you cut, this is Ben everyone.
Hello.
Ben's going to cut back to the main camera angle and I'm just going to sit back down and wrap this whole thing up. Don't know how the YouTubers do the carrying the camera out like this thing. It's really extreme. Okay. Lay that down. The kind of content that we're going to produce is in some ways going to be led by things which interest us, but if anyone does have anything they're specifically interested in, we'd be happy to talk about it in the comments. We'd be happy to look at breaking down different things that we're working on. So as we push out more content, that's going to become more relevant. At the moment, there's only a couple of videos and they're mostly just focused on things that we've produced without any explanation involved. Like I say, we're also going to be doing work on the photography side, so if you're particularly interested in that area, do stay tuned, because Spencer will be breaking down some of his lighting setups with the big old Broncolor Para. And also, a lot of the time, because we're in the same company, we actually work on the same projects. So, for example, if we're doing a fashion shoot, it might be that we're lighting it with Broncolor HMIs, and the photographers are actually using the light from the HMI, and we're using that at the same time. So we work together to set it up so that it works for both photography and the cinematography. And then obviously that means that you get a consistent look. If you're a brand, the images come out with the same lighting. And also it means that when we're on location and we're working like that, we can move a lot more quickly, because we'll have, say, 2 photographers, we'll have 3 assistants, we'll have production manager, and we'll have me on the filming side as well. So it puts all of our effort into one area rather than splitting it between trying to set up strobes and trying to set up continuous lighting for the video. That doesn't always work out, and sometimes we're actually not using lights at all. We'll just be using the modifiers that you see around us. And in that kind of scenario, you're actually basically doing the same thing. So we'd still be using the flags, we'd still be using diffusers. It's just that we might be using bounces to put light in, we might be bouncing through diffusion, we might just be diffusing sunlight. But a lot of the time the setups are the same, it just takes a little bit of thought to apply when you don't have the ability just to turn the sun on and off. But that's something we can look at in some later videos. I hope this has worked out as a live stream broadcast, and look forward to any comments or questions that anyone might have below. And we're going to cut that there. Are we out, Ben?